Well, welcome, guys. My name is Melissa Harold, and I am a consumer engagement manager for Medell on the West Coast. But I get the pleasure of helping out in Utah. So your state is one of the states that I get to cover. Just to let you know, my background is I am actually a teacher of the deaf. So I have been in the seats that you guys are sitting in for many, many years before coming to Medell. So I appreciate all that you do for your students. And then I was able to get Joshua to join me. Josh, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Joshua Huppert. I am also a consumer engagement manager. I am in the Northwest region. I am a pediatric audiologist. So I was in clinic at a pretty large academic medical center for a number of years, and then a children's hospital before that, prior to coming to Medell. So while I can't relate to being in your seat specifically, I am incredibly indebted to you for helping to keep these kiddos hearing really well throughout the school day. So I've really enjoyed the partnerships and the opportunities I've had to interact with teachers of the deaf, educational audiologists, speech pathologists, because you guys are the troops on the ground during the school day. So we appreciate you and everything you guys do.
All right. So today what we're going to do is kind of talk to you guys a little bit about Medell, as well as go over our newest audio processors, so the technology that you might be seeing in the school district, as well as we'll review some FM system connections, as well as provide you guys with some supports that we have in place to help not only our recipients and their families, but also you guys in the school district. Okay. Feel free to jump in, interrupt with any questions or anything that pop up. Okay. Right, there. Oh, it's going fast. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so at Medell, our mission is to overcome hearing loss as a barrier to communication and quality of life. The way that we do that is we have intact hearing solutions that are going to gently, bring back some hearing to your students. With that, our goal is to not only improve their hearing, but also, like we said, to bring back that quality of life that they might be missing. As we know that the school system is not just about learning and listening, but also about that social interaction and becoming friends and stuff like that. So with our new, Josh, I was gonna say, with our new technology, we have 2 audio processors, and Joshua is gonna kind of explain the first one.
So the Sonnet 2 is our newest behind the ear processor. It launched in late 2019. And there's a lot of really major updates that have happened from a technology standpoint, particularly with regards to the way that we program and the specificity in which we program the device. But the good news is for any of the children that you have been managing or, supporting in the classroom that had the Sonnet 1, which was the first version of this processor, all of those parts and pieces are exactly the same and can be utilized and interchanged on the Sonnet 2. So the benefit is when they get their new kits, they're going to get a bunch of new parts and pieces, but the kind of nice thing is all of the parts and pieces on the Sonnet 1 that they may have had before will be compatible with the new Sonnet as well. It is water resistant on its own. So what that means is if they're sweating, if it's raining outside, something like that, the device is going to be fine. However, we wouldn't recommend that you submerge it in water. So no swimming, no showers. Accidents happen, but we want to be mindful of those to the best of our abilities, particularly if you live or interact in a warmer part of the state. It is waterproof with the utilization of the WaterWear accessory, which is kind of like a little raincoat that goes over the entire processor. It does not change or alter the access to sound or the quality of the sound. It just allows the device to be submergible in water. That does come with the kit, so that's not something that the family or child would have to purchase separately. It's going to come standard in that kit of accessories. It does have enhanced data logging abilities, which as a pediatric audiologist, this is one of the primary things that we look at every time we do see the patient and check programming and the utilization of the device. we know that a device that isn't on the ear is not helping much. So this allows us to not only check the data logging and how often they're wearing the device, but also get information about the types of environments that they're utilizing and that the device is picking up throughout the day. So are they in a quiet environment with a little bit of noise most of the time? Or, is that particular child in a pretty noisy environment most of the time? So it does give us a breakdown of those environments where the child is and what they're exposed to most throughout the day. That data logging also does include aspects of streaming as well. So it will give us the percentage of time the child is utilizing direct streaming, which can be helpful, particularly, at the beginning of the implant life when we're looking to really see that focused practice listening through the implant alone. Our new programming software, which is Automatic Sound Management 3.0, it does include a really incredible automaticity feature in which it's constantly analyzing environments throughout the day and determining based upon that environment what it needs to do with sound to really optimize, particularly speech and speech-like sounds. It also is able to distinguish whether the child is listening in quiet entirely, quiet with a little bit of noise, quiet with a medium amount of noise, with a lot of noise, an environment with just a lot of noise. Is it speech or music? So it's doing all of that in real time and then modifying how it's utilizing the programming of that sound and that signal to optimize hearing in that environment, given that sort of environment and what its nature is. So it's doing that all in real time. So there are no buttons you have to press. There's no, program you have to switch to. It's doing that all for you. So the automaticity is really great because you don't have to worry about the child going through multiple environments during the day and wondering whether or not they're well supported based upon the programming alone.
What's nice is that what that means for you guys is there's nothing you have to do. So less is more when it comes to the teachers in the classroom.
How is the data logging compared to how it used to be? Because in the past, it's been quite terrible. Like, it's not accurate. So how is the new data logging truly? Like, is it really giving us real-time feedback of how long they're wearing it? Does it malfunction? Can you?
Yeah, good question. So as an audiologist who's been programming CIs for a while, I can very much relate to those frustrations. It is significantly better. I think at the end of the day, there's always, aspects of technology that we're looking to update and fine tune. But already the feedback that I've gotten, in the clinic and the experience I had when this upgrade happened to this new version of the programming software, it is significantly better and quite a bit more accurate. And what I mean by that is when I would, kind of get information from the families coming in and saying, how, roughly what do you think as far as how long the child's been wearing the device throughout the day? What types of environments do you assume they're in? What the parents report is pretty spot on to what the data logging is showing. And I think the specificity of how long they're in each of those environments and what environments it's picking up to be the most common that child's in are also pretty accurate. So I will say, from what I've heard and what I've seen clinically with this, it's significantly better than what the version was prior. I haven't heard any major issues with anything yet and have heard quite a bit of positive feedback on the differences in what these updates have allowed us to see with the data logging specifically.
And that's only with the Sonnet 2, correct? So kids that still wear the Sonnet 1, this data logging wouldn't apply for?
No, so the ASM is the new programming software that's been updated. So once any new device is programmed or put into the software, it will be, some of the features will be available. Like the scene classifier and stuff like that will be a little bit different with the Sonnet 1 versus the Sonnet 2 just because of the update in technology, but they will still be able to be programmed on that programming interface. So ASM 3.0.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So with regards to battery life, you do have a couple options, and both of these options do come standard with the Sonnet 2. So you're going to have the disposable option, which has the disposable battery sleeve. I don't know if you guys can see my arrow here. Takes two 675 Implant Plus batteries. That's going to get you up to 60 hours of use, so about 2.5 days. You also will have the rechargeable option as well. With a standard battery, you get up to 10 hours. With a micro battery, up to about 7 hours. In my experience, I I think we're going to continue to see trends specific to power options really change as rechargeable becomes more the standard. But I've always said, at least from my experience, I think the disposable are a better option for children in the school, largely just because if something were to happen where batteries go dead, I think the experience surrounding hearing aids and utilization of batteries is more common ground to a lot of the school support staff, the teachers, et cetera. Sometimes, I don't always know it's feasible to have rechargeable batteries sitting and ready to go if one were to be dead or, power out during the day. So I do think there's a little bit more flexibility with the disposable option during the school day, but we do have many, many kids who still use rechargeable without any issues. So I think it's really a family and school preference. And I'm sure, at least in my experience and being in on IEP meetings, it was kind of a conversation that the team had to figure out what was best for that child, given the various things they were doing throughout the school day or how long the school day was. But both power options are going to come standard with the Sonnet 2, so they're not going to have to choose one over the other. They'll have utilization of both.
Are your new batteries better than the ones that our kids have been using? Because our kids, it lasts about 6 hours with an FM system, which isn't a full school day. So
yeah, so the rechargeable batteries, there's certainly been some really in just rechargeable technology, the zinc air technology in general has been quite a bit better. So I do think you will see truer and close to that 9 to 10 hours with the standard battery of the newer version. But, again, with FM, you're utilizing a little bit more power, particularly when it's on throughout the school day, which again is why I think the best option of the two, given, the use of FM and the school day being a solid 6 to 8 hours. I do recommend the disposable just for, peace of mind and knowing that you're not going to have any problem getting through the school day with disposable.
And the kit's only coming with one rechargeable battery per site, correct? You're not sending out 2 now?
No, so each Sonnet will get 3 rechargeable batteries typically with the new processor. And though people, at least in my experience, we never recommend the micro. We typically recommend 3 standard. So they're going to get 3 standard batteries, and that each of those is going to have that 9 to 10 hour battery life. So they do get 3 per processor typically, and they can always purchase more if they want to. Good questions. Here's a few light pattern indicators. The specifics of this are available within the actual processor manual, but I think kind of the big thing to pull away is, generally speaking, red is kind of telling you that there's potentially some error or issue. Green is sort of good to go. And there are, sort of idiosyncrasies of those within each of the patternings, depending on what's going on. But in most cases, you are seeing that red light occur until it's connected to the internal on the head. And then you'll get your sort of indicator blink to let you know that that's on and working. But I would say in general, green tends to mean pretty good. Red meaning something is, potentially malfunctioning or, there's, low batteries or whatnot. So again, kind of just something to keep in mind, but I would generally say green usually it means you're good to go. Red is kind of giving that indication that something may be a little bit fishy to check out.
Okay, thanks, Josh. The other option for audio processors that we offer is our Rondo 3. So back in, I believe, 2013, we came out with the first all-in-one processor, which was the Rondo. And now we are actually on our 3rd generation. So we have seen a lot of improvements in the Rondo 3. And the main thing that we want to do is make sure that no matter what processor these students choose to wear, they're going to have the same sound quality and benefits with both the Sonnet 2 and the Rondo 3. So one nice feature about the Rondo 3 is that it has a fully rechargeable battery, only takes about 3 hours to charge, and you will get all day listening out of that. So if a student comes with their Rondo 3 charged, they're going to get about 20 hours of listening. So they will get through that school day. We've improved the technology by having now dual microphones. Therefore, we're able to take advantage of that, scene classifier and, minimizing background noise and whatnot. This processor is actually waterproof. So you can actually submerge it in water for up to an hour. I was a early intervention teacher. So I had the preschool group of children, and in San Diego, we used to do a lot of water play. And this processor was great because if a student knocked it off their head in the water table, it was no big deal. If a child is going to be on the swim team or something like that, we still recommend that they put the waterwear on so that it is fully waterproof for a longer period of time. Okay. Once again, in the manual, you'll get the full information on light patterns, but with the Rondo 3, we want to point out that it's going to give light patterns for, the battery life, as well as some troubleshooting, as well as what program the student is on. Okay, so you can turn this on when the student gets there and see what battery life it is. And we like to say it's kind of like a traffic light. Green means it's good to go for the day. You'll start to see it turn orange or yellow when it's starting to slow down a little bit. And then red means it needs to be charged. Okay, so just like the Sonnet 2, we're going to say red means look into any issues, and green means it's good to go. We have found that the majority of students in the school day do use a Sonnet 2 over the Rondo 3. But the majority of clinics out there, I know there's a few in Utah that are a 1 processor center, but most of them are a 2 processor clinic. Therefore, when they have their surgery, they will get 2 processors, 1 as a backup. They have the option of choosing 2 Sonnet 2s, 2 Rondo 3s, or 1 of each. Most of the families that I've worked with do choose 1 of each, so they have the flexibility to go back and forth. So you might typically see a Sonnet 2 unless there's an issue, and then you might start seeing some students where they're Rondo 3s. So we wanted you to be aware that of some of the light patterns and issues with the Rondo 3.
All right. In addition, to seeing, hearing aids and cochlear implants, you're also seeing another form of support or, aided options that you can have through bone conduction. We have 2 different devices that we offer. One of which is the Adhere. So this is an alternative option to the soft band Baha that you guys are probably typically used to working with or seeing within the classroom. It is the only adhesive bone conduction option available. I think we have somebody's camera on or sound on. So it is the only adhesive bone conduction option available. The adhesive is a medical grade adhesive, and so it's meant to be specifically of a medical grade quality where there's no major allergy component to that. It does last 3 to 7 days and is waterproof. So the sticker can stay on during a shower, during swimming, any type of water activity. The reason you're seeing the variability with 3 to 7 days is there's a recommendation for how to actually apply the adhesive. And unfortunately, not all families follow that recommendation. So, I've seen people, we did an experiment in our clinic. We were one of the first clinics when I was in clinic to fit this device in the US. And the method that we developed, I was seeing kids have anywhere from 8 to 12 days of use of 1 sticker and as few as 5 to 7, but it all varied upon the way that they apply the adhesive. So typically we recommend that you clean the area with an alcohol wipe, let it dry for about a minute or so, apply the adhesive, let that sit for another minute or so, and then load the device. And that creates a better connection of the sticker to the skin and allows for additional support of that sticker for a longer period of time. There is all-day comfort as there is no pressure applied to the skin as there is with the soft band, where you have to maintain a certain level of tightness because that can dramatically impact the sound quality. If 2 things, number 1, if that band is too loose, you have a higher propensity for feedback or that whistly sound that you'll get from the device re-amplifying itself. Additionally, if it doesn't maintain a fairly tight contact with the skin and a certain pressure level, it changes the quality of the sound the child is hearing. So if it's not a good a good tightness. It will be a dampened sound and be a lower sound quality than it would be if it was nice and tight to the skin. You are going to get about 10 to 12 days of use with a single size 13 battery. So it is a nice option. It's not an option that you're seeing probably quite as much as the Baja. And I think a lot of that is because people don't know that it is an option out there, number one. Number two, that being the case, they don't, they're not recommending or talking about it. But we've seen a lot of success just given the fact that it is, much more comfortable. It's not causing any, challenges of the skin by having that tight band there. There's a higher consistency of placement. And it's a better placement than the Baja in that it aligns with the ear. So the microphones are aligned with the ear to help kind of replicate that pinna effect that they would get, where you get a little bit more amplification to the highs and the lows are able to translate through pretty easily, just given the nature of low frequencies. So it is a great option. And again, I think you're seeing more and more of this as people, realize that the bands are not always consistently worn. They're not always consistently in the same place. And the actual tightness to control the sound quality is not always consistent either. So you're going to get a lot more of that with this device. Bone Bridge is our surgical option. So this is for kids 12 and older. Adhere is solely for single-sided deafness or conductive hearing loss only. It's not have an indication for mixed hearing loss. For Bone Bridge, that is going to be an indication for mixed hearing loss as well as single-sided deafness. It is the lightest and lowest profile of this kind of processor on the market. You get 8 to 10 days of battery life with a single 675 battery, which is the best on the market currently. And it does have a new hinged battery door and retention attachment sites. These are huge improvements from the first generation of the Bone Bridge, which was the Samba 1. This is the Samba 2 processor. It is also our second generation of the implant itself as well. Go ahead and go to the next.
Hey, Josh.
So I have a student in junior high who, guess what? Boys kind of like their hair a little longer sometimes, especially when they've had hearing loss.
Believe me, being in Portland, I know that trend very well.
Right? So he hates it. Tell me what I can do to make it better, because he hates it, and now we're what, 2 months into school, and
what device does he have?
he Adhere.
The Adhere. Okay. What does he hate about it?
Well, they're probably not doing all the protocols to get it to last, but hey, they're maybe getting a week out of it on a good day. But more than anything, it's struggling with longer hair, and
Okay.
he feels like he has to shave behind his ear to make it work better for him. And we're just not seeing success. He'd rather just not wear it.
Okay.
So rather not hear.
As far as the placement of the device goes, is it pretty close to being just behind the pinna?
We are putting it there. Some kids are just more hairy. They are. Some kids' hairline is way closer to their ear.
Okay. So, what I'd recommend is, there is some sort of individualization that can be considered with placement of the sticker. And we can talk a little bit more offline, but I wonder if there's just a modification that we could move the sticker placement maybe slightly down or maybe slightly closer to the ear to get away from where that hairline is, unless the hairline is pretty significantly lower. We do have some flexibility with where we can place that sticker. Every kiddo's head is a little bit different, so I would probably have to see it before I can make a solid recommendation. But there is some flexibility in how we can place that to better accommodate him, so it's less of a bother and he's more willing and excited to wear it, so he doesn't have to modify what he clearly likes, which is his long hair.
Josh, is
Yeah.
there, what's your experience with the adheres and preschool, kindergarten age kids where they're going down slides or running in recess and it, just coming off?
So I will say, I was the first person to fit Adhere at my clinic. And there was a lot of skepticism about Adhere just because it was something different. They're like, that sticker is never going to stay on. What happens if it falls off, etc. But what I actually found in my clinic is that I would always offer all options, and I would do extensive testing with multiple devices. So I would do kind of my standard test battery in the booth with functional testing to see how they were hearing in different listening environments. And I would test them with a cross device, with a Baha device, with an Adhere device. And that way I got a really good idea of functionally, were they performing at roughly the same place across all three devices, or was there a significant benefit to one device over the other? And it would just kind of help with counseling a little bit. I would never sway a family one way or the other, but I did see and I had a pretty significant bone conduction load at University of Miami. But what I noticed in particular is that my kiddos, particularly younger kiddos under 5 who were wearing the soft band Bahas, every single kid would come in, the band placement would not be optimal tightness. It was sometimes here, it was sometimes here, it was sometimes on the other side of the ear it wasn't supposed to be stimulating. There were always issues with things breaking and falling off and kids not liking the feel of the headband. So I actually noticed, and this is universally across all my kids in Adhere versus Baha, daily wear time significantly better. On average, about 6 to 8 hours a day, I was seeing with the Bahas on the soft band, anywhere between 3 to 5 hours a day. And that was pretty good. That's me being pretty generous of that time. So I had a really good a really good run with it, but I was very open and honest about, I definitely recommend this way to apply the adhesive. I definitely recommend, this is where we need to place it. And then once that counseling was given to the families, they did really well, but sometimes it took a couple visits for them to really understand how that had to be done. I will say there are some kiddos, particularly those that, have unique syndromes or just have smaller heads, that sometimes placement of the sticker was a little bit challenging. And there were only a couple kids that, just because they were small, it didn't really bode well for the Adhere. And I said, I think they would do really well in it, but I'm just not comfortable with the limited real estate that I have to place the sticker and have that be consistent every time. But that was very, very rare that would happen. And that there are 2 kids off the top of my head I'm thinking about, but it is birth well into adulthood that you could do this. Again, those unique cases where you're like, let's really kind of look, do we actually have the real estate we need to support this the right way? But I would say that percentage is pretty small. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
So can I ask, with your Adhere and your Rondo and your Bone Bridge, what FM system options are they? I know with the Sonnet 2, you can do the
We're going to actually go over those right now.
I did also, Josh, I wanted to clarify also, with the Adhere, they also have the option to put it on a soft band. So if they do have the Adhere and you're seeing that the adhesive is not working as well as you would like, they do have that soft band, so they can kind of transition to that until maybe they're a little bit older, right, or whatnot. So, and
that is definitely something you could do. And that, again, like everything else, that's gonna come standard with the Adhere, so it's not something you have to purchase separately. You'll automatically get that. Whether or not they use it is totally up to the family.
I do see.
One question. I'm so sorry. With the Adhere and the Rondo, how are you doing listening checks with those? Do you guys have a post for the Adhere?
There is a post for the Adhere. With the Rondo 3, there's a couple options that you can do listening checks. There's an actual check of the microphone, and there's also a really quick check with a speech processor device that we can talk about as well. And that the speech processor is kind of the go-to generally for schools. But if if the educational audiologist wants to do a more in-depth look at the actual microphones itself, there's a way to do that as well.
So is it the old system where you have to hold the magnets together, you have to push the remote? Is it that works with?
So you do have to put it in microphone test mode, and that's usually done through the remote if you're checking the microphones. If you're doing the speech processor check, that's a lot easier.
Just the
we
gray
can
one
talk about both of those.
Tempo light, right? But you're not actually hearing.
What was that?
The speech processor one is just the little gray key looking one that you hold it and it's just doing the flickering. You're not actually hearing any of it.
No, but what it should be, the light patterning you see through the speech test device should mimic what your speech prosody is. So it, if you're articulating, it should blink with your voice, and if you're holding out sounds, it should stay lit with your voice. So that's kind of a quick and dirty. But again, it's not actually checking the microphone itself. But if that's usually working, you can have pretty good confidence that the microphone is doing what it should be doing based upon it reflecting what your voice is doing.
But if you're concerned about distortions, is it the same microphone checker that you have before, that you have to put the 2 magnets together and do that? So the Adhere, you would just pretend that's your, well, it is your magnet, but you would just stick that on the same
Very
spot.
much the way you do the Baja with the listening post, where you hold it to your skull and then plug your ears, and you can listen to the microphones that way.
Okay.
And I did see a hand up online, but I think it went
Stephanie, I
down.
think.
So
No,
yes, I was in,
Steph, hi, from St. George. I have a couple kiddos who are using the Adhere, and I'm not sure who had the kiddo that has the long hair, but I've got a little, or a younger, probably 12 now, girl who rodeos, and she wears a hat and an Adhere, and her mom actually just shaves, like, just a little bit of area right behind the ear, and they just keep it shaved, and just don't put the adhere on wet. They wait till it's really, really dry. But and she's got a lot of hair, and she wears it with a hat, and it seems to stay on really well with it shaved. But we've had a lot of success with that. So thank you. But my question was just the same about how do I listen to that? So thank
Yeah,
you.
and if you need support there as far as like knowing how to do the more advanced mic check and then the speech check too, we have slides and stuff that I know Melissa would be more than happy to send you guys to give you guys that support, or get you the microphone test device and the speech processor if you don't have one.
That would be great. Thank you. I'd like both of those.
So is the
Yes,
coupling the same as the Baja then, or the Ponto? Like, can we click it on a post we already have?
No, it has to be the Adhere's post. It's not going to fit on the Baja or the Oticon Medical post.
Okay, so it has a different coupling. Okay.
All right,
oh,
go ahead, Melissa.
and so moving on to FM systems. Try it again. Oh, did I miss one? Nope, there it is.
So we do have a compatibility chart specific to FM. It does only talk specifically about the Roger, but I know, being in Miami, I know that a lot of the school systems were still using the Oticon Amigo FM system. So we wanted to make sure that we provide compatibility, not only just for the Phonak FM products, but also the Oticon FM products as well. So we have slides for both of those. The kind of overarching story is that there is compatibility across all of our product lines for all types of FMs. Everyone's just a little bit different depending on what you're looking for. So we're going to go through all of those now. Go ahead. Perfect. So I kind of broke these down into two categories. We have the digital wireless options, and then we have the telecoil options for both product lines, for both cochlear implants and bone bridge. To break down digital wireless, there's kind of a couple options. So you have the universal receiver, which can either be integrated into the actual battery cover, or it could be plugged into the battery cover. So the two options from Phonak are the Roger 21 sleeve, which looks like its own battery cover, except for it has the actual receiver built into it. Into the battery cover as it is. The other option would be the Roger X receiver plugged into the FM battery cover. So just to kind of repeat those. So the Roger 21 is entirely one piece on its own. What's pictured here would be the FM battery cover with the universal Roger X plugged into the bottom. Very similarly from Oticon, you would have again, that universal receiver, which is the R2 receiver, that would use the same FM battery cover that you see here for the Sonnet 2, and that R2 receiver would plug into the bottom of the FM battery cover. For a digital wireless solution for the Rondo 3, it's a little bit more cumbersome in the sense that you would require the mini battery pack. You would have a cable that would plug into the bottom of the Rondo, and then the actual universal receiver that you see here would plug into the top of the battery pack there. There is another option. I recommend the telecoil option personally for Rondo 3 because I think it's a little less cumbersome and requires a little bit less equipment, but there is an option to allow that compatibility with the Rondo 3 as well. I do think overall, it's a little bit easier to accommodate both the Oticon and Phonak FM systems with the Sonnet 2, but certainly we can do it for the Rondo as well. Go ahead and go to next.
Can you still pair multiple devices to those with the boot without taking the boot off?
Yeah, that would all be reliant upon the actual the transmitter. So like the Roger, mic or the Roger pen or whatever you're using as the transmitter. So whatever capabilities that would have, that the universal receiver that we pictured on the other slide is just going to be the way to connect that device to whatever transmitter you're using. So whether it be the Oticon Amigo or the Roger, whatever the capabilities of that are, whether you can connect to one or multiple, is going to be the same. It's just adding our device into that mix. If that makes sense. The other option is the universal neck loop. So this would be probably more familiar to most of you as the MyLink, but the sort of Oticon version of that is called the ARC. Both of these would require telecoil, and both processors, the Sonnet 2 and the Rondo 3, are telecoil compatible. So the telecoil on the Sonnet 2 is integrated, it's built in. You would need the Echo Fine Tuner or the remote app, which is Audio Key 2, to access the telecoil capability. So you would press the T in that program and that would put you in telecoil mode. You have a couple options there. So you could go to full telecoil, or you could go to a mix where you have a mix from the environmental mics on the actual processor itself and a mix from the actual FM. And that would be a choice of what you want to do. With a Rondo 3, you would need the telecoil adapter. This does come with every Rondo 3 purchased. So it's not something they have to purchase separately. It does come standard with it. And it could be plugged in at all times. So there's a locking mechanism on it that allows you to put it in and it locks there. And then you could always take it off at the end of the day when you're done. But this would be all that would be required to have the Rondo be telecoil accessible, and then they would just wear the neck loop as they would standardly. In my opinion, this is a much easier, less cumbersome option for FM for Rondo 3 specifically. But again, it seems from what I've seen in my experience and what we continue to hear reported, it seems that most of the kiddos are in Sonnet. I will say I'm seeing a higher uptick of Rondo being used now, particularly in the Northwest region, just because of all the hiking, all the outdoors, stuff that's going on. And just because it's an all-in-one option. People like that they can put it on and go. So those are both the options for the CI side of things. And then we'll talk about the FM options for the bone conduction side of things next. Go ahead. So this is just kind of giving you a closer look at the Echo Fine Tuner remote. As I mentioned before, this is where you'd activate that telecoil mode on either the Rondo 3 or the Sonnet 2. Again, you have mic mode, which is just the processor mics. You have MT, which would be a mix of the processor mics and the telecoil. And then you'd have telecoil by itself. And all three of those functions are feasible through the mic or through the remote. The uniqueness is with Rondo 3, once that telecoil adapter is plugged into the bottom of the processor, it becomes what we call plug and play. So at any point, if there's a telecoil available, a loop available to the processor, it will go into that mode. So kind of similar to the way that Phonak hearing aids are like Roger ready. Very similarly, our processor stays telecoil ready. So if there is a telecoil available, it's going to use that as priority for the listening mechanism for the Rondo. So you don't necessarily have to go into telecoil mode for the Rondo to pick up a telecoil that's available to it. And again, these are just some more specific directions as to what keys are there. When it comes to FM compatibility for both of our bone conduction options, for the Adhere, you would use the universal receiver, so like the Roger X or the R2 receiver, and plug it directly into the Adhere. It does have a Euro port on it. And then the telecoil receiver adapter could be utilized to, again, access the telecoil loop with that directly. Same thing with the Bone Bridge. It comes with the Samba To Go, which is the Bluetooth compatible neck loop that the child would wear, so they could wear this under their shirt. It does have a Euro port in it, which I showed at the bottom here. And so once that goes in, they're able to then access the FM through the Samba itself, and then with whatever transmitter you guys are using in the classroom. So the kind of cool thing is with the Adhere, it does have, a mic plus DI or a fully DAI input. So that would need to be programmed into the device by the managing audiologist for you to access that. But again, most people are using the direct, and then they would go into, let's say, program 3 or 4 and they could have a mic plus DAI, which again would be that mix where you have mix coming in from the processor mic and mix coming in from the FM, or they could have a full DAI, which would just be the FM system and no environmental contribution to that. So they have a choice of programming within the ad here itself, but that would need to be programmed by the audiologist. The ad here does come standard with programs, these programs being part of that. So they wouldn't necessarily need to be separately programmed unless the audiologist changed those standardized programs that come with the device itself, if that makes sense. For Bone Bridge, again, it's semi-direct in that it goes into the Samba to go, and then that will allow the Bone Bridge to access that FM technology. But again, this does come standard with every Bone Bridge purchased, so it's not something they have to purchase separately to be able to utilize that capability. Is this, oh, there you go, perfect.
All right, we're just going to wrap it up a little bit with some resources and supports that we have in place to help you guys out, as well as the families and recipients out. First, I think I love to point out our website. If you go to Medell.com, it has a ton of information. There you can get to our blog and read some tips and tricks. You can learn about both processors as well as all the equipment that comes along with it. We even have some troubleshooting stuff on our website. So it's a great place to start if you need more information. Next is my favorite. It is our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and pretty much type in anything you want to know, we usually have a video that's going to go along with that. So whether it be how to change the batteries or how to turn it on, how to change programs. We have a bunch of, they're about 1 minute long, 30 seconds to 2 minutes tops, videos on how to do things. So I know in the classroom, you don't have a lot of time to call your consumer engagement manager, or maybe audiology is not on site. This is a great way to kind of learn quickly how to do things on your own.
Melissa, is the link for that in the presentation, or is that just they have to type in the website?
You can just type it into the website. If you go to YouTube and then type in Medell Cochlear Implants, or Medell Cochlear Implants with whatever, you know, Sonnet 2, a bunch of videos will pop up.
Awesome.
Okay. Next on our website, you can get to our blog, like I said, and this is a great place to go for. We have some rehab ideas. We have some recipient stories. We have some tips and tricks about, you know, how to wear your implants with your glasses or with a mask. So it's a great place just to go to kind of get some more ideas on how to troubleshoot things in the classroom. And then last but not least, I know a lot of teachers like to go to our Bridge store. On our Bridge store, you are able to order a bunch of different resources. Many of them are free. Some you can download, some will be shipped out to you, but you can find Ling cards. You can find, we have a comic book of individuals with cochlear implants. We have Melly gets her implants and goes to preschool books. So a lot of fun things on our website that you guys can use in your classroom. So I highly recommend going to the Bridge store to check out resources that we have there.
And I will say the Bridge store was just recently updated. It looks, I mean, it was like we were in the past before, and now we've brought it into the future. So it's a lot more streamlined. There's a lot more material there now, and it's organized a little bit more intuitively. So this is a little bit outdated because at the time we made this, we didn't have the new link to the new Bridge store. It is available as of now. So I definitely recommend you check it out because it's gotten quite the facelift.
So, and I know as, go ahead.
I just have another question. So I have a student that wears the Sonnet ones and was implanted in China, and then his second was in America. And so his tech is old. Parents aren't willing to pay for backup batteries, so I've had to fight to get some donated from every audiologist I can talk to. And so we have batteries charging at the school because they do not last the whole school day. Yes, sometimes swap them out twice a day. But my issue is I have loaned him my little attachment between the rechargeable battery to hold it on to the processor, and now mine is failing. So is there a way for us to get like a replacement piece for that so I can still test it weekly, because I have to fix his tech every week? Or is there a way for us to get access? We do have an account with you as a district, and we've been given a lot of test stuff, but those types of things we have not been given access to. So is there a way to get that stuff? Because I'm not using it for myself. I don't wear implants. I'm literally just using it to test my kid's tech, to troubleshoot. And I've taken the one device and swapped them to the other side, and I've done that as well. But then when I've had both failing at the same time, I don't have a tester to figure out what is broken on his tech. Does that make sense? Very loaded.
Absolutely. So I'll start by saying, I think the first step absolutely should be if there's a way to get this family in touch with me. Because if different parts and pieces are failing, we can see one, if anything is covered under warranty, and get those things replaced, as well as see if he is due for an upgrade to get new technology. I think that would be another great step. We don't want you guys to have to use your school stash of things to fix a processor that could easily be upgraded if it's been in a certain amount of time. So either if the family is with
tomorrow on Monday, Heidi's our rep. She's
oh yes
to help me because his R21 sleeve will not activate on the device, and I tested it on my testers from Phonak, and both of the sleeves work just fine. And I've tested it on the other implant, so it's a processor that's failing. So, anyways, I do need to have the family contact you directly because Heidi's hands are a little bit tied from the experience I've had. So I just want to make sure that I'm contacting the right people. The parents don't want to really spend much money on this, which is where we fall into a lot of the issues.
So I have a quick question. Have you guys troubleshot the rechargeable battery adapter?
That's what fails once a month.
Okay. So it could very well be. Now, have you been able to test with an alternative battery adapter on that processor for like a day and just see if you notice the same issues? Because I wonder, like, if that's the only part that needs to be replaced, again, we can check and see if it's still under warranty, and if so, easily replace it. If not, potentially get them into new technology if they're eligible for that. But the other piece would be that if you're noticing ongoing failures, there's sometimes we're able to make exceptions and replace things outside of warranty periods if it's an ongoing issue and, you know, really challenging the child's ability to be with sound, good quality sound throughout the day. So, I don't hear it very often, but that battery adapter can sometimes be that sort of wonky piece that means the difference in the battery actually being able to hold charge and connect with, you know, everything from the audio stream to an FM battery sleeve, etc. So it seems to me like that may be the part that's not working the way we expect it to, and not the batteries themselves. If you have an extra one of those adapters and can trial it, if you haven't already, with the kid throughout the day and see if you're still noticing those issues, that would just be more proof for us to say, no, this is clearly the piece that's not working.
So I have the whole left side working. So I take the whole left side, adapter, battery, everything, swap it to the right side. It won't show that it's even there. But his microphones on his processor are working. So the device is turning on, but it's not recognizing the sleeve, only on the one side. So even if I have everything else working and I swap it out, it still will not activate that sleeve.
So it sounds like we need to
Anyways,
get
I'll
that
troubleshoot
device.
that
Yeah.
individually with you, but
Yeah,
I'll make sure to
individually.
get your contact and we can do a message.
Perfect.
absolutely. And if Heidi is coming out to see you tomorrow, you said, Heidi and I are on a team, so we work together. So I can follow up with her as well and see how that kind of goes.
Okay.
But having her out there would actually probably be the next step to kind of see what she can do. So you are doing the right thing. All right.
I ask a quick question? You mentioned the Bridge store, but I can't find that on your website. Where is that?
Okay, I can actually send you guys a link so that everybody can have access to that, and I can follow that up with Adam if that's okay, so that you guys have all those resources.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you'll actually send me that link in an email or something, I can link it to our questions page. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I'll send you a follow-up email.
Great.
All right. I am aware of our time, so I just also want to let you guys know that we do have 24/7 support, 365 days a year. So you can call this is our old number. It's actually 1-888-MED-EL-CI. And from there, you'll be able to get a hold of customer service if you need to order any replacement parts. So if you guys do need to order things, that's a great place to go. As well as reimbursement. Reimbursement helps with those upgrades and figuring out insurance issues. So if this patient, your student gets a hold of me, we can work with them. We also have audiology on call. So you can call and get an audiologist that's familiar with the MED-EL technology on the phone to help you with any sort of troubleshooting. So always feel free to reach out.
And I will say from the reimbursement side of things, so we've made quite a bit of changes in the last couple of years to get additional staff on to really support this, because we know upgrades can sometimes be a little bit of a nightmare, given some of the complications from insurances and there being so much variability across insurance companies. So we are very, very pleased to say that we have dedicated reimbursement specialists that are specific to the West and Northwest regions. So what we've noticed as a result of that is it's taking significantly less time for those upgrades and warranty issues to be processed much more quickly. So whereas before it was taking several months, we're not seeing that to be the case anymore. So we hope that that continues to be the trend moving forward and that you guys also start to notice that benefit too.
Great.
Okay. And that wraps it up with 1 minute to spare.
Great. Melissa and Joshua, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you joining us online. We would love to have you in person at some point, but we'll reach out to you again and we'll make sure that your information is shared out with everybody so they can reach out if they have any other questions.
Great.
Perfect. And I will follow up with those emails. The links.
Great. Thank you so much
Thank you,
again.
guys.
Have a great week.
All right. Enjoy your day, everyone.